Hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, trying to get rid of some of the light here. Welcome. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the skill of forgiveness. The reason I wanted to do this today is because I've had a special request from one of the viewers, and I know that it's really important to a lot of us. So, first of all, if you are new to the broadcast, welcome. If you want to just watch, that is fine. Hi there, Jody. If you don't want to participate in the chat, that is absolutely great. No problem at all. You're more than welcome. And we've had people that have literally spent months and months, I think some even years, just watching the broadcasts and not participating in them. So you are more than welcome. Please make sure if you like to grow and learn more about yourself and how to improve your life, please make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Dear Mama Sal. The reason I say that is because we all are like one extended family of support for one another. None of us is perfect, and we all acknowledge that, but we are here to help one another through the tough times and the fun times. And you're going to find out that I've got allergies. So, uh, the whole business of forgiveness is really important because my experience is that we forgive others at a much better rate than we forgive ourselves. Do any of you relate to that? Hi, Cynthia. Good to see you. That literally that we forgive our friends in a heartbeat, but we don't forgive ourselves. So I wanted to just make sure that you are aware that what we're going to be talking about is really important to. I'm just going to grab something here. Um, it is like we all have this issue. This is not. This is not something that only some people have. The question is, how well do you forgive yourself? I don't know. Only you know that one. So I just wanted, before I get on to the main topic, I just wanted to let you know that on January the 1st, that was a couple of days ago, the city of Vancouver here in British Columbia banned all foam containers. You know, those white foam containers that you get your Chinese food in or your takeout food in and so forth. They are totally banned now. And I thought that was sort of like a huge step. And I know that there is, I think within the next couple of years, there's going to be an absolute total ban on plastic bags as well. So I don't know what dog owners are going to do when that happens. um, and and what will I line my garbage can with? I've got to think about that one. Anyway, I wanted to say that, and just a quick update for those of you who know my life. I wanted to tell you it was a magical visit down to see Benji, Judy, and the children last Sunday. It was an amazing visit, and it was filled with love and kindness. And I just want to tell you that it was just memorable. You know, life is about memories, not about things. And so it was really great that we didn't sort of spend a lot of time trying to impress one another with gifts. We spent a lot of time showing love. And I want to tell you that that is why I really appreciate life today, is because I'm amongst people where making you helping you, perhaps I'm going to say making you feel special, but helping you remember how special you are is really important. And I want to tell you that the children just blew me away. It was a magical time for me. For those of you who don't know, I was not able to have children myself, and so the fact that Benji and Judy allowed me to play grandma to a set of children. You can probably imagine. It's like I always say to them, okay, what games do I get to play with today, right? Because to me, these are things that I never did do with children. Um, so you know what I mean. So I'm reliving that part of my life and thoroughly enjoying it. So I thought I would just make sure that you all knew that. Um, I want to start off talking a little bit about the forgiveness. And the chances are some of you have made New Year's resolutions. Has anybody broken them yet? I know that one of mine is to do about 1,000 steps more a day, average. And so far, not including today, but I'm 2 for 2 on the first 2 days. So I'm pretty happy. So I wondered if anybody has made a commitment to themselves that they've already broken, because if so, the chances are you need to forgive yourself. And really, I want to tell you a lot of this forgiveness stuff, I want to thank Jody for. And the reason I want to thank Jody, for those of you who don't know who Jody is our admin. And Jody has done a really great job of teaching me how to forgive the moments I have in terms of my blood sugar. And she has, over the last year, taught me, you're going to have a bad day. Not every day has to be perfect. You're going to have a bad day, but hopefully when you've learned enough, you will know how to adjust it quickly and get back on track. And so I want to really thank you, Jody, because whether you realize it or not, it was an incredible lesson in forgiveness. And what I've also noticed, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it, is that Jody's really good about forgiving others, but has a little bit of a double standard about forgiving herself. So if any of you fall into that trap, we're going to talk a little bit about that. By the way, if you haven't clicked on the bell here, there's a bell, or subscribed, please go ahead and do that. If you, as I said, if you'd like to be kept up to date on the learning that we do. And you'll be advised, if I'm about to do a broadcast, it'll pop up on your screen for you. So I think the first thing that we all need to understand is that if you need forgiveness, either of yourself or others, somewhere along the line, a mistake has been made. Do we all agree on that one? The reason you need the word forgiveness is because somewhere along the line, there's been an oops moment. Now, I always ask myself, and I don't know how you deal with this, but I always ask myself, did I intend to hurt this person? Did I intend to forget a birthday? Did I intend to, whatever it was? And if the answer is no, then I act in one way. If I actually did something, and I must admit those moments are rare now, if I did something intentionally to hurt somebody, no, I'm checking my honesty here, because one of the things I've always said is if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it honestly. I cannot think where I have intentionally hurt somebody, but I have had revenge thoughts. I don't know if any of you relate to that. So, every now and then I'll go, I can teach them not to do that to me. And then I correct myself now. In the old days, I'd let that one play out a long time, but now I correct myself in a hurry, because I realize that if I'm thinking revenge thoughts, then, that is not good for my being at all. It means I've lost control at some point, and I've let them into my inner space, and I'm really trying very hard to protect my inner space. So do we all agree that everybody makes mistakes? It doesn't matter whether I think the great example was Pope Francis last week when some woman wouldn't let go of his hand and he hit her. He wrapped her over the hand. And you go, even the Pope, is capable of making a mistake. Right. Now, Cynthia's making a really good comment here, which is the one I was getting to, Cynthia. So thank you for bringing that up. And she's saying, I don't believe there are any mistakes, just opportunities to learn. If you can wrap your head around that if you have done this, then there is an opportunity to learn and to improve. And so I totally agree with you. And as you're going to see, Cynthia, it is part of the program that I'm going to talk about. I would say that the first thing that I would check in is, are you capable of owning your own mistakes? You see, if you are emotionally intelligent, and we spent last year talking about that, you can own your mistakes. You can actually, you don't have a lot of ego attached with, well, I messed that one up, didn't I? I'm so sorry. I forgot your birthday and I feel really badly about that. I want to tell you that, I am genuinely very sorry. So the number one is to own it. Number two is to have the character to apologize for it. I miss people's birthdays all the time, especially at the moment where my database was had a problem in it. And I want to thank Jody, who very kindly, put a lot of the database back together just from her notes. And I thank you for that. I'm keeping it in a separate place now, Jody. But you understand that to be able to own your mistakes or your learning opportunities, shows a level of emotional intelligence. When somebody can say to me, look, I'm really sorry, I forgot to do X, Y, and Z, I think a lot better of them than if they come in and say, well, the reason I didn't do it is so and so, didn't do their job. They play the blame game of somebody else for the reason why they didn't do whatever. So to me, I really appreciate being able to see my mistakes and own them. And, I had a wonderful example of something that happened to me this week that I just want to tell you about to see if you can see the interesting situation that happened. Is a really good friend of mine, been friend of mine for 30 years. We were playing telephone tag to wish each other happy Christmas, and New Year, but we both knew that we were both trying to connect by telephone to do that, because I know that he particularly doesn't like electronic media, doesn't like to be informed, doesn't like electronic birthday cards or stuff like that, even though, it is the way that we do things these days. Doesn't matter. He just, it's a pet peeve of his. So it was so great because, when we eventually did start talking, he was talking about, his pet peeves. And we were talking about the fact that that I'm about to move. So, my sense of humor is a little bit weird. And so what I did was I said, well, I have my new address. Normally I would just email it to you to save you time. But, I know you don't like that. So why don't you grab a pen and I will dictate it to you. Now, there's part of me that's going, that was a little bit sarcastic, but it also was true. You can't have it both ways. And then the funniest thing was we were busy chatting about his life and my life. And then we were talking about where I'm going to move to. And he said, well, do you have pictures so I can see it? And I said, sure. Because you don't like things sent electronically, how would you like me to deliver that? Do you see? Because what I was saying, that when he wanted something, it was okay to send it electronically. But if I wanted to send him something, like a birthday wish or whatever, he got upset if it was electronically. So, I was just making a point and it worked really well. Because, he got a little angry with me, but in a nice way. And he said, really, you are quite something. And I said, well, forgive me. Because I knew I was being sarcastic. So I said, forgive me, but really, think about it. And then he was telling me that for, probably 6 months of next year, he's going to be away, traveling around the world. And I'm going, oh, that'll be a bit of a problem. So he said, why? And I said, well, seeing as I'm not allowed to contact you electronically. No. He says, I'm on this and I'm on that. And he was giving me social media things. And I said, oh, so when you're away, it's okay to contact you electronically. Or when you want something, it's okay to contact you electronically. And he just burst out laughing. And he said, okay, good point. But I said, no, but I hear that it is a pet peeve. And so I will do my best. I will do my best to do it your way on these, things like birthdays and Christmases. But can you see there was a double standard there? That on the one way, when he wanted something, it was okay, or when he was traveling, it was okay. Oh, by the way, I also said to him, I'd like a full itinerary of your travels for 2020, so I know when I can send electronic stuff and when I can't. Fair. If you're going to be traveling for 6 months of the year, I need to know when you're back in the country. Anyway, so here's some ground rules that I wanted to share with you. Okay. If you have made a mistake, and for example, if I accidentally send an electronic note to my friend when I could have picked up the phone because that's what he prefers, the first thing to do is to do what you can to fix the mistake. Right, first of all, own it, that you made the mistake, but do what you can to fix the mistake. And remember to apologize for your behavior. Don't blame anybody else for your behavior. Just apologize for your behavior. As we keep saying, week after week, like a broken record, we are only responsible for our behavior, not somebody else's. So the trick is just to say, for example, I forget birthdays for one reason or another. Life gets in the way or whatever. And so I actually have learned to send a note to people which goes, oops. I see, I forgot your birthday. I hope it was wonderful. You see, people seem to be okay with it. And the fact that we remember it all, even if it's a bit late, is better than nothing. And I really believe that. The same way, after all the pet peeves discussion with my friend, when I was sending him the note with the pictures of my new place, I said, by the way, I just want to thank you so much for getting hold of me and how much I appreciate the fact we are still friends and that we can still enjoy these conversations, even if you call me Sally. Because it's a pet peeve of mine that, if you're my friend, you call me Sal, not Sally. And, I must admit, he wrote back and he just LOL'd all over the place. So what I was trying to do is to make sure he understands he's living a double standard here. He knows that I prefer to be called Sal, but he still calls me Sally. Why? Because what he said to me, it's difficult to break a habit. And I went, yeah, it is, isn't it? Like sending emails. But I didn't say that, but it is difficult to break a habit. And so, I think it's really important to see the balance. Now, Jody will tell you that I am on her case all the time about living a double standard. She will forgive me for all sorts of blips in my diet or whatever. And yet she will not give herself the same grace. So I would suggest that one of the first things we need to do is to see where that double standard applies. Where would you, if you were talking to me, would you forgive me this? And if so, why won't you forgive yourself? Why is it different for you? Anybody got any input on that one? Because what I noticed in my life was that I was really good at forgiving other people most of the time, not all of the time, because I'm not perfect. But I just didn't do the same job on myself. Now, Jody is saying about the fact she's living the double standard thing. She is working on it. And I'm pretty sure, Jody, because I keep bringing up the double standard, that you're more aware of the double standard. Would that be fair to say that? That because I will say to you, isn't that a double standard? Because you would never say that to me. I'm hoping that when I send you those little reminders, that it helps you see. Yeah, it makes you very aware. All right. And I would say a really good benchmark for you is, would you forgive Lionel for this? You adore Lionel. So would you forgive him? And if you would forgive him, why would you not forgive yourself? Jody, you see, because her emotional intelligence has come up leaps and bounds, she's saying, I appreciate the reminders. I think that's a really good point, Jody. And one of the things that sort of came to my mind was, I've done something on forgiveness not so long ago, probably a few months ago, but I've done something on forgiveness. Do I need to do it again? And I'm going, yeah, I think we constantly need to be reminded of forgiveness and why it's so important. Hanging on to it, let me ask you, what does it bring you to hang on to your shame and your guilt and your I've been a bad person or whatever? I think if ever you've owned a dog, and I'm hoping that some of you have, if ever you've owned a dog, you will understand that a dog can do something really bad and be told off for it, but forgives you in a heartbeat. It's like, okay, that's done. Now, am I still a good boy? Do you still love me? You know, I think a dog's recovery time, for those of you who might have dogs, a dog's recovery time is amazing, to my mind, in terms of, of getting over something. Unless, of course, they've been abused badly, in which case, it lingers on. But that's true of all of us, isn't it? And I'll get onto that subject in a minute. So I guess the question that I have, what if you need to forgive yourself for something you did in your past? Um, I don't know about the rest of you, but I did some things in my past that I'm not too proud of. They were not too stellar, you might say. Um, that, but I cannot change it. I don't care how much I work on it. I cannot change what I've already done. And that's why I talk a lot to people these days about think twice before you do it, because you can't undo it. And I would say that if you've done anything in your past for which you are not really proud, about which you're not really proud, then you do need to forgive yourself and move on, because you can't change it. It's going to be part of your DNA for the rest of your life that you did that. But it doesn't have to define you. Jody is saying that she said, the kindness that you extend to me by sending me those reminders helps me to correct the behavior and ultimately lessens the times it happens. Yes. So what Jody is saying, because I remind her when she's giving me a double standard, it helps her remember that that's what she is doing, and that she wouldn't do it to me. Why is she doing it to herself? And because it's repetition, like all learning, if you keep repeating the learning, eventually it sinks in. And what I'm sure is happening, Jody, is that you can hear me saying it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can hear me saying it a couple of times before I even, before you even get on the typing, and you just wipe it out because you know what's coming back. Because I will call it for what it is. Okay. So let me think of, I can remember driving drunk and absolutely out of my mind drunk when I was young. And I realize now that I put people at risk and I could have killed somebody. But I can't change that. I can't undrunk myself from 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I can't undo that. I don't care how much I pray. I don't care how much I learn. I don't care how much I do anything. I cannot change that that's what I did. So therefore, I need to let it go and move on. For those of you who maybe are Catholic, you've got the wonderful gift of confession. And really, part of what I believe that learning was about is talk about it, get it out of your mind, talk about it, and get forgiveness. In the case of the Catholic, the priest will give you absolution, and then move on. All right, so Cynthia's saying, looking for the good, the greater picture of what came from the mistake is helpful. Yeah, it's interesting, Cynthia, because when I look back at some of these things, I go, what did I learn? And quite honestly, hi, Amber. Well, quite honestly, on some of these things, I did not learn the lesson for a long time. And I'm certain that some of you made the mistake and you're still not quite there, having learnt the lesson, which means you'll keep repeating the mistake until you do. But I'm amazed how many times I made the same mistake until I really got it. How about forgiving? What give me some, don't make it too nasty, but some of the things we need to forgive ourselves for. Have I killed spiders? Yes. I have a little discussion in my house. I'll stay out of your outside area if you'll stay out of my inside area. Um, uh, I have stood on ants. I have. There's so many things, right? I mean, I laugh because I was brought up High Anglican, which is as close to Catholicism as you can get, and I had to do confession, and I got news for you. I my first confession was literally a binder about this thick, because I really did have a lot to confess. Yeah, Jodie's saying, have I overspent on the budget? Yes. And you are undoubtedly not the only one. How many of you overspent on your Christmas budget, or how many of you failed to even budget and now are in financial stress because of that? So good example, Jodie. But Jodie, beating up on yourself doesn't fix it, right? You see, this is the interesting thing. Beating up on yourself for overspending doesn't really help you. What helps you is eating baked beans on toast for the next 2 months so that you can pay off the debt. It's the action you will take today that will help you. Not You cannot unspend what you've already spent unless you're capable of returning things. I've spent, in a way, I've spent more money than I intended to on my house, but I need to forgive myself and go and enjoy it. All right. Because it was a little above my budget. But, it's time to just let it go and move on and enjoy it. And remember, I'm not the first person to have done that. It doesn't make me a bad person. Right. It just means I found the house that I wanted and it was priced a little bit higher than I intended to spend. While we're just talking about this, I just wanted to acknowledge a couple of birthdays that are coming up. We had Nyasha's on the 1st, for those of you who know Nyasha. Erin's will be coming up towards the end of the month on the 26th, and Becca's on the 28th. So those of you who are regulars, just so that you are aware. So what good does beating up on yourself do? Think about that. So the next time you find yourself going, well, I shouldn't. Terry Cole Whitaker, I think it was Terry Cole Whitaker who said, stop shoulding all over yourself. Right? I should have, I should have not spent as much, or I should have budgeted better, or I should have had more self-control over it. Well, I didn't. That's my answer. Well, hello, I didn't. So what can I do today to help correct it, if possible? And if I can't correct it, then, shooting all over myself is not going to help at all. I just need to let it go and move on. Make sense? The other thing is, how many of you found out that your mind will keep bringing it back to you? One of the things that's really interesting about getting old, in my case, I've noticed that my mind is bringing back things from my past a lot more. Things I didn't necessarily want to remember have been coming back. And what I'm doing now, because I cannot change what I did in my 20s or whenever, is I just ask myself, am I doing better on this now? The point that was made earlier. Cynthia was saying, it's an opportunity to learn. And I can look back and go, well, I wouldn't do that today. I've learned too much. to do that today. And how many of you have noticed that thinking sadly rather than badly has been working for you? I'm really doing that a lot. I am sad that I did that in my 20s, but it wasn't that I was a bad person. I just didn't know how bad it was at the time. Jodi's saying beating up on ourselves does no good. It creates more guilt and perhaps resentment over time. Yeah. How about so if you can look at it and go, I feel sadly that I did that I didn't know better then, that nobody taught me in a way that I understood, because maybe people did try and teach us, but we just didn't get it. Because there were some things I was pretty dumb about. I don't know about you, but there were some things that I know people were telling me, but I thought I knew better. How arrogant was that? And it's probably still happening today. But it's like I now try and think sadly rather than badly of myself. Hi, Nada. Because the thing is that feeling badly about myself, quite honestly, is a self-inflicted wound. I am actually hurting myself. And when you hurt yourself intentionally, that is self-abuse. Does that make sense? That is self-abuse. If you are beating up on yourself, that's masochistic, right? So I don't do that anymore. I just go, I'm sad that I felt that way or I did that. But, I've learned better now. As, the point that Cynthia was making. Have you learned from that mistake? And if you haven't yet, you'll keep repeating it and you'll continue to feel sad about it. Now, I asked Jodi and Lauren to give me a couple of examples, and I had a couple of others that people had sent me. So I thought I would give you some real life ones other than mine. I've probably got enough of my own to keep you going for the next year. But what I asked was, which ones came to mind? And Lauren immediately wrote back on something that I thought was really an important one for us all to know. Lauren reminded me that she did not visit a sick friend in hospital. She meant to. She kept saying, I'm going to visit her. But, life got in the way and she didn't. And the sick friend died. And so can you see that there is nothing that Lauren can do to undo the action, right? However much she prays, however much she begs for forgiveness from God or the tooth fairy, she cannot undo the fact that she didn't go when she meant to. But does that make her a bad person? I don't believe Lauren is a bad person. I think Lauren got her priorities a little wrong. And so I asked her, in terms of, funny enough, of Cynthia's point, I asked her, Lauren, what have you learned from this? And she said, I learned that whenever I think I need to go visit a friend in hospital, I need to get off my butt and go do it. And I said, if you have learned that, then the lesson, that is part of your learning. Is we don't learn things by doing things right. We learn things by doing them wrong. How did you learn what hot was as opposed to spicy hot? Right? All right, Cynthia, good to see you. Thank you for being here. So how do you know what hot is when you're a child, right? Somebody lets you touch something that's a little hotter than normal. All right? It's not warm, it's a little hotter. And you go, ouch, and you go, that's hot. And then spicy hot is a different hot. It's, and you let people, you let people taste it. I can remember, how can you possibly know what jalapeno peppers taste like if you don't taste one? And I can remember the first time I tasted one, and it was enough to tell me I didn't want to taste another one in a hurry. So, it's like, um, it's important, that you learn through making a mistake. That's the whole point. So Jody came up with one. Jody, as you know, has some health issues going on, and she said, "Listen to this one." The first one that came to mind is one that I'm constantly preaching, and it's taking the time you need to rest when your body is asking that of you, and not having the guilt that the to-do list might need to be extended or edited or even pushed to the next day. Now, Jody, I think on this one, I totally understand it because I understand you. And I think for a lot of people, Jody, the question is this my body talking to me that I need to rest, or am I being lazy? All right. So let me ask the viewers, how do you differentiate between, I really need to rest, or I'm just making an excuse not to do it? Because I think one requires forgiveness and the other one requires a 2x4 and a kick in the butt. So, Jody, I've learned, as you know, I wear a fitness watch. And I have learned that if my resting heart rate is elevated too high, it is time to stop and take a break. And therefore, I do it without guilt. I say, okay, my resting heart rate is at the moment it's 68. It's wonderful, right? That's where I feel comfortable. Sort of high 50s, low 60s. It's 68 now, of course, because I'm performing. You know, there is stress about being on a broadcast. You understand that. So, but it's not 90 or 100. The amazing thing was when I went down to visit the children with all that extra noise and constant stimulation, um, with all the people coming and going, and my resting heart rate stayed above 100 until I went to go to bed. And then when I went to bed, very unfortunately, Kira ended up with an upset stomach. So I ended up only sleeping for 3 hours. And so by the time I woke up, my resting heart rate was still at 70 something. So I didn't have time for my resting heart rate to just drop right down again. You know, but here's the interesting thing. Benji somehow or other got to hear about that. I didn't tell him, but I guess somebody did. And he drove me nearly all the way back to Canada. And he had somebody drive with his car behind us, so that I didn't have to drive while tired. Isn't that so kind? It's typical Benji. Um, he just didn't want me driving at my age, driving at night, tired. So, and I want to tell you that I did get home safely, thank goodness, and I slept for 11 hours. That'll tell you something, right? So, was that lazy, sleeping for 11 hours? There are people that would have said, well, you're sleeping the day away. No, I wasn't sleeping the day away. I was making up for the sleep that I had lost. Because at my age, and maybe at yours too, getting enough sleep is really important. It helps everything else work. So, Jody, let me ask you the question that I asked earlier. How do you differentiate between when you need the rest because your body needs to slow down a bit and when you are being lazy? You see, Jody, while I was saying that, has typed up here, you were recovering, not being lazy. Yeah. So, Jody, so that you don't do the double standard, I would like you to let us know, how do you know? And because I think it's important that we discuss it so other people can understand. I had a couple of things on my to-do list. You know, I'm sort of a couple of days away. No, what is it? Less than 2 weeks away from starting moving. And, you know, the to-do list is getting longer by the day. And it was really interesting because yesterday, I already had somebody coming to give me a quote on the move. And then I need to go and pick up groceries. And then I said, you know, while I'm out in the car, I need to go and drive to the new place and deliver some documents that they need, you know, in terms of my being registered there. And the old me said, no, 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 don't do that tomorrow. You know, you've got enough to do already. And I went, you know something? If I keep giving myself that reasoning, I'm never going to get moved. The other thing is I am on a mission to pack at least 2 boxes every day now. And by the way, it's getting messy. I'm trying to see what can I undo without causing a problem. Hang on, maybe I can just turn here. By the way, the tree's going. The tree will be going this weekend. So that's all. Okay, hang on. Can you see the boxes are starting now in my living room? Those are not boxes from my living room because the stuff in my living room went a long time ago. But that's stuff from my studio that's starting to get piled up. All right, so Jody is answering here. I have certain physical symptoms that alert me. I keep myself in check. It's an excuse. If it's an excuse, I modify the to-do list, but still do something on it if it's legit. If it's legit, I rest until my energy is back. Yes, so that's what I do as well, Jody. You will hear me say to you, my heart rate is up, resting heart rate is up, so I'm going to rest for half an hour. And, you know, sometimes I actually give myself an hour because after half an hour, it hasn't dropped down enough. You know, I work it needs to be back in the 60s for me to start up again. And the funny thing is, what I've discovered is I do more that way, right? Because I'm not overtaxing myself. So some of you who are viewers need to think about, where do you forgive yourself and where do you give yourself a kick in the butt? Only you really know that. And I think the answer is, can I do it? All right. Can I do it safely even? I have a situation, for example, that 2 days ago I woke up and it was a beautiful day like today. And I went, do you have a good reason not to go out and walk today? Now, that's not a conversation I want to have with myself, because all too often I can find 1,001 reasons not to go out and have a walk and get some fresh air and some sunlight and some exercise. And so what I did was I actually said, you have no excuse, right? It was a beautiful day with the sun streaming in. So get off your butt. And even if you just go and do the 10-minute walk there and 10 minutes back, you know, it's good for you. And what I ended up doing was, I have a very long block. It's a very strange shape. And, you know, it takes 20 minutes to walk it anyway. So I walked the whole block. But halfway around, I met some people and ended up chatting with them for 10 minutes. So not only did I have exercise, but I also had some social interaction, which is also very good for your mental health. So, Jody, I thank you for the example. Jody also gave me the example, and I'm certain we can all relate to this one. Jody said, she needs to forgive herself for verbally snapping at someone and engaging in disagreement with negative talk without having taken the time to think and choose the words carefully before speaking. Emotions are high. I've done it after being pushed to my limit, and I was very hard on myself emotionally afterwards. Well, let ye who is without sin cast the first stone on that one. I cannot imagine there is anybody who doesn't relate to that one, and that's why I really appreciated it, Jody. I have started to change the way I get into arguments with people. I don't do it very often to start with, but when I do, and I can feel myself getting heated and I can feel myself getting upset, I will stop the discussion, even if it gets me into trouble. And but believe you me, it does. People don't like it. They want to fight. And I'm sorry, I really cannot continue because I am fearful that I will say something that I will never be able to take back. And in my lifetime, I have done that too many times. I realize now I don't have to do it again. So please forgive me. I ask them to forgive me. I will talk to you about this, but not while I'm so emotionally charged. You see, I can remember all the times I told people what I thought about them, and I hurt them badly. Whether it's true or not for me isn't the issue. The issue is, why would you intentionally hurt somebody? And the answer was because I felt threatened. How many of you can relate to that? Or I felt abused, or I felt whatever. So the trick is to go, that is my emotion and I'm responsible for it. So learning to keep your big mouth shut is something that takes time. Learning not to hurt the people who hurt you. From experience, I want to tell you, works. It's difficult to do. When somebody attacks you, it's really difficult to walk away from it and just go, I am not going to respond. Because all that will happen if I respond is I'm going to say something nasty and I will end up feeling badly about it later. So, as Jody said, take the time to think and choose your words carefully. I always say now to people, I will talk to you about this in about 48 hours when the emotion of it has calmed down. Hi there, Joanne. Good to see you. And she's saying, hi, hello, Mama Sal. I miss seeing you on the vlogs. Well, I'm hoping, Joanne, that when I get moved and settled, and at least half unpacked, I will be able to do the vlogs again. Vlogs. I don't know if you know, but they do take about 4 hours a day if you do vlog. Oh, I'm Vaughan. Okay. Yes, Vaughan. That's a long time ago now. You know why we stopped being on Vaughan, Joanne? Just so that you know. I really got very tired of the trolls. And what I love about broadcasting on YouTube is that YouTube has all the filters in it so that even if a troll gets through, they don't last very long. It's a one-hit wonder, or we can control it easily. And if they continue, then they can get banned. So, but it also is true that it changes the dynamic, if you like. And some people, talking about forgiveness, some people haven't forgiven me for making that shift, and that's okay. I just know that it was too stressful for me. Why would I constantly put myself in a position for people to, attack me when I don't have to? The other thing was, I could turn off the comments, but I like the comments. I like talking to my viewers. All right. So I would rather have a meaningful conversation with a few of my viewers than, an insane conversation and nasty words being used. And we don't need that anymore. Don't you think we've got enough nastiness going on in the world? How many of you read the news or heard the news today? It's possible we're heading towards World War III. I think we've had enough hate, and it's just horrible. Okay, I'm going to carry on. The next thing that Jody gave us was something that happened to Lionel, her husband. Now, you've got to imagine this a little bit. Jody, you were on your bed with your glasses, I think, at the time. Just correct me where I get the story wrong. But anyway, what happened was she moved in a certain way, and the glasses fell off onto the floor. And Jody couldn't get them because that was difficult for her. So she had to wait for Lionel to come back, and Lionel was busy walking the little fluff ball called Taylor. And so she needed, Lionel to come back to either help her get out of bed and get the glasses or just pick them up for her, which is probably what he would do. Well, take a moment to be Lionel. Lionel walks into the house. She was on her recliner and they were on her lap. Okay. So Lionel walks in. Now, Lionel doesn't know about the glasses being on the floor. And Taylor is super excited about getting to mommy. And so, Lionel and the dog both head towards Jody. And Lionel steps on the glasses that were pretty brand new, right? She'd only had them a couple of months. Well, you can imagine the cycle of loss, and for those of you who don't know what that is, it hits us not only when we lose family members or our whatever. It happens when little things happen or big things, or even losing the keys. You will have it happen. So the first part is denial, and I'm pretty sure that Jody's going, please tell me he didn't just step on the glasses. And I'm pretty sure that Lionel was saying, please tell me I didn't step on something important, because he heard the noise, the crunch, right? And the next thing is anger. And if you are human, the next thing is to have a moment of anger. And I'm pretty sure that I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that if Lionel's a human being, he would have, when he realized what he'd done, probably was starting to beat up on himself. All right. So for those of you who have a problem with forgiveness, you actually have a problem with anger management. You have a problem in getting over your anger at yourself. So, you can imagine Lionel's next thought after denial was, how could I be so stupid? How could I be so stupid? Right. And that's in the anger phase. Now, in the meantime, Jody realizes that her brand new glasses, which she paid a lot of money for, are now a past relic. They no longer exist. Okay, so Jody's saying here, we stared at the crunched glasses in silence, as if it was going to change anything. We were just in disbelief. Okay, and then there is the part of this process that's bargaining. And, I'm pretty sure that part of you go, maybe we can fit them back together again. And then they found out that they couldn't, which brings us to sadness. Because in this sadness phase, they had to look at how much money just went crunch, and that they didn't have the money to replace them. See, that's real stuff. That's not overreacting. That is true sadness. Joanne, even with super glue, these glasses were past repair. So you can imagine that it was very easy for Jody to be angry at Lionel. But knowing Jody, she probably wasn't. And let me see what she said when she wrote to me. All right, let's just read. So I asked Lionel for an example. He brought up the episode of stepping on my glasses yesterday and how he was torturing himself the entire night, saying, how could I have not seen them? And so forth. He was visibly upset. It took until this morning for him to start forgiving himself and to embrace the fact that accidents happen. And that the $450 he was distraught over, and the fact that it was going to mean that I was without my glasses. And Jody added, forgiveness is an act of grace. Good, Joanne. So Joanne is making the point that at the end of the day, it was nobody's fault. Jody did not intentionally huck the glasses onto the floor. Taylor didn't intentionally drag Lionel to mommy, and Lionel did not intentionally crunch the glasses. So the point that is so interesting here is that Lionel's main concerns were the dollars and time. All right. How to replace the glasses and how much time it would take to do that. Now, because Jody is in a totally different mindset from the one she was in previously, I thought I'd let you know. Sorry, I've just nuked my notes here. There we go. I thought I'd let you know what she did. She actually decided to contact the people that made the glasses and tell them the truth of what happened. And the amazing thing is that they offered to replace them free of charge. You see, Jody gave somebody the chance to do the right thing or the nice thing. Yeah. So if you can see that, but she had to get to the acceptance first. Okay. You have to accept the fact that nobody meant to do it. It just happened. It was an accident. That's why we call them accidents. And it is what it is, right? Remember those words. And it is what it is means we cannot undo what we have done, right? If, hang on a second, I've just dropped the top to my pen here. Okay, so if, for example, we have had something happen to us in our past. Now, some of you know I've had some things happen to me in my past that I didn't necessarily have control over. And, for years, I lived in guilt because of it, because at some level, I believed I had been party to it. And, as I grew up and as I learned more and as I got a lot of work on myself done, because I took the time and money to do that, I realized that really, it wasn't my fault. I just didn't know what was really happening, and I didn't know how to stop it. And, as I got older, I realized, continually feeling guilty for this isn't going to change anything because it's done. I can't undo that part of my history. And so I think one of the most difficult things to forgive yourself for is something like abuse. Either that you abused somebody or somebody abused you. But I want to tell you that it is something you can do. You're never going to erase that tape, right? It's always going to be there. You're never going to erase the tape, but you realize that constantly beating up on yourself for allowing abuse to happen is not going to fix anything. And all it's going to do is to continue to make you sick. Sick not only mentally, but sick physically. I've noticed that when I started to forgive myself, I started to get healthier. And I think that's a really important part, the part of getting healthier. And so I would encourage you all to forgive yourself, because if you are literally, I mean, you just have to think about it. If you had a child and you just bugged all over them every day with negative input, what is going to happen to that child? I'm pretty sure you can see that that's going to be a pretty tough life. And some of you know what happens because you were that child. Maybe you had a parent who constantly was negative about you, could never, acknowledge your good points. And so what I'm saying is be very kind to yourself. I say to people, that at my age, and I'm 72 now, at my age, I don't have a lot of time left necessarily. But I might have more time than you do, because none of us knows whether we will be here tomorrow. And it's very easy for people to look at me and go, well, I've got a long time ahead of me. Well, you don't know that. You just don't know that. And so my feeling is, even if you cannot do it perfectly, work on it. Work on forgiving yourself. Work on saying, I cannot change it. It is what it is, and it was what it was, but I am not going to dwell on it. I am going to take it as a learning lesson, and I am a better person now. Jody is saying, I was in an abusive relationship, and for years afterwards, I tortured myself mentally with, why did I stay so long? And how is it that I allowed this to happen to me? You bet, Jody. Right? And the reason is because you had hope. You had hope that that person would change. You had hope that they wouldn't keep repeating it. Yeah, and Jody's saying, it no longer has power over me. I've moved on. Yeah. If ever you spent your life going, why? Why did this happen? Why did I do if you spend a lot of your time asking why, you are beating up on yourself. What I said, and really it was part of the reason I was able to come out of depression, and I lived in depression for a long time, off and on. One of the things I learned to say was, stop asking yourself why. It just is what it is, and it was what it was. Move on. You see, knowing the why, I might never know the why. Why did a guy dump me? I can tell you what he told me if he had the guts to do that. But I might never know. I had one guy that dumped me, and to this day, I don't know why, because he never had the character to tell me. But it took me 5 years to get over that. I mean, today, no, that would not take me 5 years. Today it would be, okay, fine, next, right? And that is one of the things I have noticed is that, and forgive me while I stereotype for a moment, but I have noticed that women hold on to stuff on how it should have been a lot longer than men. If a relationship is over for men, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, men go, okay, fine, moving on. I mean, they don't spend 5 years, analyzing it to death. And so that is another thing that I would say to you, if you know that you are analyzing, things with all these whys, and why didn't he tell me, and why didn't I see it, and da, da, da. It just is what it is. I've learned that I just didn't know enough. Or I saw the warning signs and I ignored them. Jody, I don't know what you say in terms, how did you let go of the why did I stay so long argument? What was the truth of that? The reason you stayed so long was because, let's hear your answer on that one. You see, because I think everybody has a good reason for doing what they do, even if it's staying in an abusive relationship. I get very angry when I'm with people who say, well, how stupid is she? Why didn't she leave? And I get quite angry about that. Um, because in my mind, if they knew enough, they would. If they had enough self-confidence, they would. If they had enough support from their family and friends, they would. Right. Um, all right. I'm just reading a couple of comments that I can't repeat. So just bear with me a second because I want to make sure I understand what's being said, and it requires concentration. Yeah. Um, all right. So Joanne, um, we talked a bit about this at the beginning. Were you there when I was talking about that issue? And in the meantime, I'm going to give you Jody's answer. Jody's saying the reason she stayed in an abusive relationship, when she looks back on it now, she realized that I was being held an emotional hostage in a relationship. And I also didn't have any options to get out at the time until I became stronger emotionally. All right. So you see, there is a good reason. Now then, Joanne, we were talking earlier, just so that you know, and that Lauren, our very much loved viewer, Lauren, she had a friend who was in hospital and she kept meaning to go and visit her, like over a couple of days. And her friend died. She never got to go there. And, one of the things that I asked Lauren is, what have you learned from this? Right? What have you learned from it? And she said, the next time I've got somebody that's in hospital, I'm going to get off my butt and go and visit them. But even then, you might miss it. I had a situation where I got a call in Africa on a Sunday that my father had been rushed to hospital, first time in his life he'd ever been in a hospital. And I was on a plane within 12 hours and I did not get there in time. So I never got to say goodbye to my stepfather. Well, I can't change that. I don't have to feel guilty. It is what it is, right? I was lucky enough to have been on the way there, so that helped me recover. That I did my best. But we all have situations where we meant to do something, like Lauren. We meant to go and visit somebody who was ill or dying, or maybe we didn't even realize how sick they were. But what would you tell your best friend? I think you tell your best friend, hey, if you had known she was going to die tomorrow, I'm pretty sure you would have gone today. Right? And the other thing is, I'm pretty certain that that person who passed on would not want you punishing yourself for the next 20 years. And so the question is, how do we let that go? Quite honestly, the only way you can let it go is not to let it go. It'll always be there. It's always going to be a fact. And forgive yourself for not being there at the time. You don't have to think you're a bad person because of it. You made a mistake. If you throw a ball and it hits somebody's window, would you be punishing yourself for the next 40 years? I don't think so. You see, I don't think that we carry on punishing ourselves for that. But, if we didn't get to say goodbye to a loved one, it is a fact that it happened. I personally don't know about you, but I talk to my mom all the time, right? I I was in a different country when she died. I talk to her all the time, and she answers me, all right? I don't think that there is a loss if you don't want there to be. I cannot imagine any mother, parent, best friend, whatever, ever wanting you to punish yourself for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or even 1 year. I'm pretty sure that your best friend would want you to forgive yourself and move on. So the question that keeps being asked is, but how do I do that? You probably not don't want to hear the answer because you already know the answer. Stop beating up on yourself. Stop thinking about it as something that you did wrong. It was something that happened. Right. So Jody is saying honoring your loved one by not carrying that guilt is a positive step. Knowing they on would not want you to keep that weight on your shoulders and in your heart. You see, I totally think that when I got the call that my mother died, I did not go into any guilt at all, and my instant reaction, and some of you have heard that, was thank God. And it was thank God because I wasn't thinking about me and I wasn't thinking about the fact I hadn't said goodbye. I only thought about her and the suffering she was in, and I was glad she was not suffering anymore. All right, so you see, we can have all sorts of excuses why we don't want to let go. All right. Well, I don't want to let go because I loved her so much. I don't want to let go because, that's the way I think. I don't want to let go. Da, 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 da. The truth is, you are choosing to punish yourself. And so we all work at improving our ability to forgive ourselves. I really have to say that is what it's about. Can you forgive yourself? And if the answer is no, what are you gaining by not forgiving yourself? What because at some level, beating up on yourself must be something you think that that person would want you to do. Well, it's interesting. Um, Nada, I'm not going to repeat what you said, but I have somebody very close to me who has that issue, and she's done a magical job of balancing that particular diagnosis and not using it as an excuse. So, what I'm going to say to you is think about that because there are a lot of times when that diagnosis becomes your excuse for everything. Wow, Sharon, congratulations. Let me know if I can repeat that. Um, right. And so I agree with you, Nada, that that I would have a look at, people who suffer from the same situation but don't use it as an excuse. I often talk to you about Christopher Reeve, who was Superman and the next day was paralyzed from the neck down. Now he could have said, "That's it. That's the end of my life. I don't want to be la la la," la," but he didn't. He said, "Let me move on with what I have," and he did a lot of good too. So I want you to understand that my friend, and if you like Nada, I will ask her how she balances, you right? How she doesn't use it as an excuse anymore, because she suffered as well a great deal when she had a loss in her family. And I always say to people that you hurt so much because you loved so much. But I cannot believe that the person who passed wants you to suffer. Really. I just cannot believe it. I mean, what sort of wicked person would want you to suffer for so long? All right. And so to me, this is about the way you let go is to move on. The way you let go, actually, Nada, do you know about reprogramming? Have you done any work on that? It's called cognitive therapy. I don't know if you've done any work on that, but I actually do that a lot to myself. When I start to think about something that I did wrong in my 20s, because that's what's happening now at my age, that stuff is coming back to me, I go, yep, I did that. And it was pretty stupid. But luckily now I know better. See, I finish the story by going, but now I'm 72 and I know better and I don't have to keep beating up on that. And so what I'd like you to do is, those of you who are struggling on this, feel free to write to me and tell me what the voice in your head says, and I will maybe be able to help you come up with some reprogramming of that thought. In other words, you're going to think it still, as I do, but it's how you continue the thought that's important. That's what helps you recover. Um, all right, so Nada, um, all right, so here's the thing. What I'd like to do is, for those of you who have these negative thoughts, beating up on yourself, I don't want a 20-page story. What I want is what happens. In my case, it was, I cannot believe that you drove drunk, out of your mind drunk. All right. That's what my mind keeps saying to me. I want to know, what is your mind saying to you? All right. And if you can give me, just the sentence or the couple of words that you're stupid, or how could you possibly have done that? Whatever it is, don't give me the whole story. Give me a short paragraph to say what this is about, but then give me what the mind is saying. Then I can concentrate on answering, you know, reversing that slightly. Now, it's going to take practice. Hi, Nyasha. Yes, and so a lot of people have that problem. All right. What has happened is you've stayed stuck on the guilt phase. All right. You remember what I said about, the cycle of loss. You have not got to acceptance and moving on. Remember, you've got denial, you've got anger, you've got sadness. But here you've got acceptance. And that's what you haven't got, because you haven't got the words around that. And then to be able to move on. All right. So what I would like you to do is, okay, so I'm being asked what questions am I requesting here? Let's say, and I'm going to give some examples here. Let's say, like Lauren, you had a friend who was ill. You didn't realize how ill. You meant to go to the hospital, but didn't, and she died. Okay, that's all I would need to know. And then you might have the following thing going into your mind. You are a terrible person for not going to see her when you could have done. See, that's what your mind could be saying to you. And then what I would do is say, when you hear that in your head, counter it by saying, it was a mistake. We all make mistakes. I know not to repeat that one. I forgive myself. And I am moving on. Now, you do that 10, 20 times a day. You are going to train your mind to move on. All right, so here's the answer. Joanne, can I repeat that? Your reply to people? Yes, Ned is saying that she's been doing that countering, that answer, finishing the sentence. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The more you're practicing, the more it will work. Oh, sorry, Nada said that. Sorry. The more you practice it, the more it will work. And by the way, depending on what frame of mind you're in, if you're in a pity party frame of mind, it's not going to work. If you want to have a pity party, it's not going to work. But if you are in a frame of mind that says, I want out of this, I want out of it, and I know the way out is not to think like this. I'm doing this to myself. Okay, so let me just see. Joanne has allowed me to repeat this, and I want you all to take a deep breath because this is so sad to read. Joanne said, this is about, I think it was her mom that died, right? People tell me to go see someone, but my reply is, if they can't bring her back, there's no point for me to go. Now, Joanne, that brings tears to my eyes because you are giving yourself a reason never to move on. And that makes me sad. Niesh is asking, how does one get out of a pity party? Can you see that what Joanne is doing is she's guaranteeing it that she will never forgive herself and she will stay in depression and grieving for the rest of her life? So I want to, if you can, Joanne, I would like you to talk more about, if you want to write and let me know, do that. My heart breaks for you because that must be a horrible way to spend your life. But I relate to it. I've been there. I want to send you a big hug because I have been there. I have beaten up on myself that badly. And I spent a lot of time in depression because of it. But I do want to tell you that only you can make the decision. I can talk for the next 10 years. But if you honestly believe that if you cannot bring her back, there is no point in getting help. You see, I don't believe that you think that, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I believe you do want to get out of pain. All right? Now, some people have gone to get help and, they didn't find that it helped. It doesn't mean that the person was bad. It means you weren't ready to be helped. All right? that you didn't hear what you wanted to hear necessarily, and so you weren't ready to be helped. And so one of the things that you learn, especially doing the sort of difficult work that we do here, one of the things that you learn is everybody's going at their own speed, right? Joanne, I honestly believe that you are on a path to get over this and move on because you're here. There's no way you'd be listening to this if you didn't want to learn. It's difficult stuff. Or anybody else that's here. All right. If you think about it, this is not fun stuff. This is not makeup and you know smoky eyes and no. This is real life difficult stuff. So I applaud you all for hanging in here and for talking about it because the more you talk about it, the more it'll make sense. Joanne, I'm going to repeat that because that is exactly what it is. Joanne's saying it's been so long, 19 years. Joanne, I'm pretty certain that if I told you I had been beating up on myself for 19 years for something I could not change, I am pretty certain that you would not encourage me to continue to do that. It's enough. It is enough. It is probably 18 years too much. Maybe even 18 and a half years too much. Maybe even 18 and 3/4 years too much. You are allowed to feel what you felt because that's called grieving. But if you continue to grieve at that level for 19 years, why? And getting some help could have saved you years of this. Knowing that she will never come back isn't the issue. It is how to forgive yourself that is the issue. That's what you want to learn is how to forgive yourself. So really, I mean, my heart, but you know something, Joanne? Way to go for talking about it. Way to go for discussing it because when you can talk about it, you are on the path. When you can tell the truth about it as you have, you not only help yourself, but you're helping other people that will listen to this. So all of you need to know that you are all getting better, not worse. You're getting better because you are prepared to talk about it. That's what therapy is. We're not a therapy group. We are a group of people who talk the truth about stuff. Now, the truth at whatever level we are at. So you understand there are times when I will listen to people and I'll go, may I hit you with a 2x4? Right? Because what I'm hearing is somebody's truth, but I've learned a little bit past there. So I want to be able to go, Joanne, I look at you and there's part of me that wants to hit you with a 2x4, but don't know that I can because if you are in that level of self-hate, that is such a shame. You would not want me doing that to myself. Okay, let me ask you something, Joanne. You know how much I love Benji, Judy, and the children. When I was down the previous time, I accidentally broke a promise to Mia. So do you think that I should spend the next 19 years beating up on myself for that? And if not, why not? I want to hear your logic as a human being. Right? Because I want to tell you, I came home from that trip and I was so angry at myself for accidentally breaking a promise to a child. And I am pretty certain that a number of you can probably imagine what that felt like for me. No, because I didn't mean to. It's like it's a no-brainer for you, Joanne, right? You didn't spend 19 years saying that. You immediately came back and said no because you didn't mean to. So my question is, Joanne, why are you so kind and generous to me and share that compassion? And why do you just keep on being so negative to yourself? Why can you not just say, I didn't mean to, it was a mistake? And it is what it is, and it was what it was, but I know that she would not want me to live anymore with this guilt. And then I would think about what things did you guys do together? You know, let's say that you and she used to love doing jigsaw puzzles together. You know, when I get into that sort of space, do something. All right, so here you go, Joanne. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, honey. All right, so Joanne is saying, I'm presuming it's okay for me to repeat. Can you just give me that you are aware that I'm going to repeat unless you tell me not to now? I just want to make sure you understand that. All right, so Niasha's okay. So that well done, Joanne. You're doing great here. Joanne's saying, because I feel I let my mum down. I wasn't here with her when she left. I was 15 minutes too late. I was on an aeroplane trying to get to my father. I was 12 hours too late. I was coming from Africa. Should I have punished myself for the last 30 years for something that was out of my control? Because you see, I didn't know the exact moment he was going to die. Did you? You see, why would you do that? You see, Nada can see it. Nada's saying it would be good to be as kind to yourself as you would be to Sal. You see, that is that is Jody has had to learn this. This is called the double standard, right? Where you cannot and will not forgive yourself for something that you didn't intend. It was a mistake. You didn't know. How can you blame yourself for something you didn't know? Jody's saying, I was 10 minutes too late in being there for my mom. And you see, Joanne, when she gets truthful, says, no, she was well the day before and went downhill really fast. You see, some of you believe that that was meant to happen. She didn't want you there when she died. I have to say that to you, Joanne. She didn't want you to see her die. All right? And I've got to ask you something else. Did she know you loved her? Yeah, Nada was a few days too late for her grandma. I was, as I said, over 12 hours too late for my dad. But I did not spend the next 19 years beating up on myself for it. Because that would be so selfish. It's about me, not about him. I actually cried a little bit because I was going to miss him for sure. But you know, I kept saying, wasn't it wonderful that he had never been to hospital? He went in one day and he was gone within 12 hours. Thank goodness he didn't suffer. You see, to me, it's not about me. To me, it's about them. So I can imagine, and that's what worries me. I can imagine that your mom or anybody that you love that you've lost is looking down and seeing you suffering, and they cannot do anything to help you. Can you imagine what that must feel like? And so to me, that's why I would say, let's say, for example, my mum really liked to do jigsaw puzzles and we would do that together. If I really was beating up at myself on something, I would say, I really am sorry for the mistake. I tried to get there in time and I failed. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to do a jigsaw puzzle in your honor this week. All right. And I want you to feel that while we do this together. And I'm going to do it to help me heal, Mum, because every piece I put in, I'm going to remember something wonderful that we did together. And I'm going to cry as much as I need to. And I'm going to ask you to help me forgive myself. Yeah. Niesh is saying, Joanne, you can talk to her. Tell her what you're feeling. Let her know what happened. If she loved you enough, and it sounds like she did, she's going to forgive. I'm sure she forgave you. I don't think she even had reason to forgive you. I believe she left before you got there, so you wouldn't have to see her die. I think she loved you that much. So I just want to say, Joanne, and everybody else that's in this discussion, how proud I am of you for your courage. And I wanted to make sure you know that. Because this is not easy stuff to talk about. But I encourage you to talk about it more. And I encourage you to write about it. All right. And even if are getting, what I say about the hamster wheel? Joanne, uh, okay. So Joanne's saying that she was on a bus at the time, and one time, and she walked down the bus and noticed a lady in a blue coat with curly hair, and I couldn't stop staring at her. I had to get off just to look at her to see if it was she was knowing that she was gone. I think, Joanne, that for some reason, are you a Christian at all, Joanne? I just want to make sure that I talk to you at a level that is comfortable. Um, you see, because to me, no, okay. But you've heard the expression "that's her cross to bear," right? I think you've been carrying your cross way too long. I think you've been carrying this hurt way too long. But that's my belief. The the interesting thing, Joanne, is last time I spoke to you, I think you're an adult. So you get to choose how long you want to continue, right? And the way to continue is not to learn how to correct the thinking process, and not to get the help. And I will give you all the help I can, and everybody here will give you all the help they can. But quite honestly, the same as people will say to me, Sal, thank you so much for what you did to help me. I go, no, actually, I just talked. What you did fixed it, right? Not what I did. I just gave you some options. What you did will fix this. So I cannot stop you from suffering for the rest of your life, Joanne. Do you understand that? I want to make that nobody here can stop you suffering. Only you can. And it will take practice. And I really am so proud of you because this is part of the practice, is just talking about it. And by talking about it, is there anybody here that's been helped a little by Joanne talking about it? Because you see, Joanne, this is the work that we do here. All right? we know not everybody can afford necessarily to go and get all the fancy help. So we talk about how we overcame things. And I can assure you that Jody understands this business about the double standard better than most people. Jody will forgive anybody anything, but forgiving herself is really a problem. Joanne, thank you. Joanne saying, I talk with you and others here. I trust you. And I trust you to keep on practicing. All right? Keep on talking about what is going on in your head. Because when you keep it to yourself, I've always said that for me, my experience, when I look back on it now, my pain, my depression, my beating up on myself was my anger turned inwards. Okay, I beat up on myself when I really needed to just let it go. I couldn't change it. I couldn't be 10 minutes earlier. It's already done. I couldn't be 12 hours earlier. I was on a plane. Therefore, I am not to blame. You know, even if I was delayed, even if I intentionally delayed it, I was not to blame. I believe that is I was not meant to be there, as a couple of people have said. You know, I need to believe that. All right, so Kez, may I repeat that? Okay, listen to this one. For those of you on the replay, she's saying, I didn't get to say goodbye or I love you to my grandma. The last time I saw my grandma, and a few weeks later, I think I'm reading this correctly, that she committed suicide. So when I was ready, I wrote a letter to her and then ripped it up. Yes, good idea. Or set it on fire in a safe place outside. You know, let it go. Say how sorry you are. And you know, you might even want to write, Joanne, you may want to write that letter and just, if you haven't already, and tell her how sorry you are. She already knows. And yes, you're saying, Sal, I believe that we all have that ability to fix whatever is going on in our lives. But what we haven't had or knew was how to get it done. I believe that as well. I don't believe that Joanne is in this room because she doesn't want to let go of this hurt. You see, I believe she's here because somehow she's hoping, you know, I can tell you something though, Joanne, just from my experience. Just so you know, no amount of pills was going to fix it. And I've got to say that, you know, the pills, if you end up, you know, the pills will help you cope, but it actually doesn't fix it. You need to reprogram what's in here. And it's actually takes a lot of practice to do it. Yes, you would like a release of the pain, right? So that's forgiveness, Joanne. That's what forgiveness is. I'm going to let go of the pain. When my husband cheated on me and did X, Y, and Z, you can probably imagine how much pain I was in. It hadn't happened once, it happened 2 husbands in a row. So you guess who was beating up on me, all right? And you know, I had to decide one day to stop doing that. Okay? Because it wasn't going to change anything. Congratulations, Joanne. Yeah, that doesn't fix it, does it? It numbs it, but it doesn't fix it. You see, I'm so proud of you because you can see that you're already on the path to fixing it. It'll never go away. I just got to tell you that because I'm honest. All right. I can never change the hurt that I felt. But after some time of feeling resentful, angry, blah, 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 all those things about my ex-husband, one day I woke up and I said, you really loved him. Let him go and be happy, even if it isn't with you. Let him go and be happy. Exactly, Joanne. I'm not going to repeat this part, but exactly, right? It's not going to happen. So I am very, very proud of you, honey. I really am. I'm feeling, I just want to tell you, I'm feeling a level of lightness because I can see that you can even have a sense of humor about it. That is amazing. All right? Because for you to be able to answer like that says that you can look at it from the outside in. And that is so important to be able to see this behavior doesn't fix it. What fixes it is getting on with your life and being happy. And, okay, let me ask you a question. Roughly how many times a day, a week, a month do you think about this? Would you say? Do you think about it every day or a couple of times a week? Joanne, what is the answer for you? This is really important because it'll help other people. So thank you so much for discussing this. Because what I want you to see is, right, I guess most days and when I'm alone. Okay? So, and the reason when you're alone is that's when you give yourself permission to feel, Joanne. Does that make sense? When you're with people, you're acting a part, I think. You're not really being honest, your normal self, right? What you're doing is you're acting this part, but when you're alone, you're sad. Okay? And that's the interesting thing. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to be sad. All right? So here's what I want you to do. I want you, if you can, to start scoring yourself. How do I do? Yes, I'm pretty sure you put on a false person. How could you not? I totally get that, Joanne. I totally get the fact that for other people, you pretend you're just fine. Guess why I can totally get that? I've been there. I know that person, right? Now, I can't feel it the way that you are, but I can feel it for the way I was. And I used to, I would pretend I was coping beautifully. Thank you very much. Until I shut the door on the people. And then I was left with me. Boy, did I know the difference of that one. So now, Joanne and anybody else who wants to help themselves, listen up very carefully. This is what I do when I find I am suffering from a pity party. Okay? What I do is I say it is okay to be sad. I understood it, Joanne. I read it exactly as you meant it. I read straight through the typo. So here's what I say to myself. I say it's okay to be sad. Right? You're sad. What am I really still angry about, right? So are you still angry that you didn't get there on time? And so I would ask myself that and say, well, can you change that? No, I can't change it. So, okay, you are allowed to stay sad for the next 15 minutes. Do you think you could do that, Joanne? And after 15 minutes, you need to go do something, right? I would recommend systematically go through your living space. I don't know whether you're in a house or an apartment, but just start going every time I get sad, I'm going to go and do something constructive. I am going to go and clean a window. I am going to, clear the top of um, um, a table or a shelf. Now, I've always said to my friends, if you want to know how I'm really feeling, check the condition of my house. I don't know if this is true for anybody else, but when I am depressed, I don't tidy up as well. I don't clean things off my countertops as well. So I know when I'm struggling because I don't do the routine things as well. Does anybody relate to that? So what I've learned to do is to limit the amount of time I grieve and then spend the next bit of time accomplishing something. Why, Joanne? Because it's amazing what it does, right? It's like it. I don't know if you know about endorphins. Do you know about endorphins, Joanne? But achievement releases endorphins that make you feel good. So if you go, okay, fine, let me see if I have got enough discipline and if I care about myself enough to not mope for more than 15 minutes. Yes, the happy hormones. There you go. That's what they are. And so that's what I would do, right? I will literally say, okay, you got 50, and maybe half an hour. You start with half an hour if that's what you need. But here is the thing. Don't give yourself a day. This is like you get half an hour. Then you go and, I'd have a list of the things you want to get done in your house, right? I want to clean my windows. I want to, wipe all my couches. I want to, wipe down my walls. There are a lot of things in a living space that can do with a clean. Things you don't normally do, And I want to tell you, you'll be horrified at the dirt. I normally am. But it's like, wow, I'm so glad I did that. And once you start doing that, you're inclined to continue. But if in another hour you want to have another pity party, and that's what I want you to call it, Joanne. I want you to call it a pity party because really, when you think about it, isn't that true? You want to carry on beating up on yourself. That's a pity party. But you're allowed to have them, just don't let them be very long. And then see how many do you have in an hour? How many but if you have one, then you get to clean afterwards, right? That's called that is called getting healthy. When you can see that you're doing it and then do something about it. That is healthy. And I learned that partially from Benji. Benji told me that he found out that whenever he gets angry, he cleans. And I said, "Is that why you've got such an immaculate house?" I mean, but he literally, when he's frustrated or he's angry or he's beating up on himself, he cleans, and that's a great positive thing to do because it uses up your energy, that negative energy, and you get accomplishment. And accomplishment, releases endorphins. Whew, big subject, huh? So, Joanne and everybody else that's here that is coping. Anybody else that might be listening on the replay? You understand there is hope. That's the important thing, right? There is hope. I spent probably close to 20 years of my life in and out of depression. I have not been in depression for at least 20 years. And you know why? Because I know what causes it now. My pity party. I'm not getting out of myself and doing something to correct my thinking. When I used to sit and dwell on it's not fair and, whatever, I don't want to go there because I don't want to go down. But, it's like, really, why did I do that to myself? I spent so much of my life taking pills to make me feel better when really I needed to correct what I was thinking. That's what made me feel better. Well, bless you, Nada, for saying that. You understand that I'm just a human being like you, honey. Right? I am not sitting on some pedestal. I am just like you guys. I hurt as much as you do. I have been through a lot of the pain that you are experiencing. And that's what I said. If I ever do YouTube, it will be because I want to share what I know. Not that I'm perfect, but I want to share what I know. I am not going to pretend that everything is great in my life. And you will notice that I've never done that. I have told you when I'm frustrated. By the way, do any of you want to know what I'm busy beating up on myself about? Would you like to know that it still happens? Right? You see, because it's something that happens to us all every day. It's how long we spend doing it that's the interesting thing. All right. So you remember that when I was saying, well, I've already got an appointment today and I've got to go and collect the groceries. Well, I don't feel well enough to also go and deliver those documents. And I literally heard myself say that. And I went, really? So you'd prefer to be more stressed in about 2 weeks. Is that right? Do me a favor, Sal, get off your and go and deliver those papers on the way. It'll be done. You can check something off the list. And I did. And guess how it felt? I was going, yay, another thing off the list. I've got a personal goal at the moment to pack at least 2 boxes a day. Do I want to? No. I've got a choice. Do it or end up with twice as much stress in about a week. Right? That is my choice. All right, Joanne, I'm going to share a quote that I heard with you, and you might want to write it down. And Jody, I don't know where the quote is from. I remember hearing once with tears in my eyes because I can remember how I was hurting at the time that I heard it. What I heard was, pain is inevitable. Torture is a choice. You see, I was in the sort of pain you're talking about. And that day that I heard that quote, I realized that it was okay to feel the pain of loss or the pain of what I had happened to me. But I didn't have to keep hurting myself with it. That's torture. Or in fact, torture is when you keep on hurting somebody time and time and time again, slowly, but hurting them. And what I realized was I was torturing myself with my thoughts. And I didn't know how to do it, but I then said, I need to change. And I'm going to do it every way I know how. All right, so Niasha's saying, Mama Sal, you say you're not perfect, but the strategies you give us all work and help us become a better individual. So you're a motivator. Wow, Joanne saying, I went out 2 weeks ago. First time I've been outside my home in 2 years. It was nice being in the winter sun, and I will start going out more and try living again and stop existing. You know something, Joanne? I can feel that. And I want you to do me a really big favor. I want you to know that I know that the most difficult thing is to get the other side of that door. All right? Getting outside the door is the struggle. What you do outside the door isn't as difficult. Am I right on that one? Do you relate to that, Joanne? The 1,001 excuses to get to the door. And so what I do, in case you want to know, Joanne, what I do is I start keeping track of those excuses. Like, nah, but it's raining. No, but the leaves are falling. No, but the wind's coming in from whatever. I've got some great excuses. Yeah. All right. So Jody's saying that quote that I gave, thank you, Jody, comes up on Lifehack. It also, there is a Buddhist version of that quote. Yes, I have a feeling it was the Buddhist version that I originally saw. You don't want to face the outside world. That is a huge, huge truth. Why? What is it out there? We've got people that we've helped that haven't been outside their doors for 4 years. Joanne, the fact you can own that is wonderful. So why don't you want to meet the outside world? Because you're going to get hurt again? Because they won't understand? Because you can't carry on the pity party? What is it? I'm about to move into a new neighborhood, Joanne. You know how scared I am? And they're all going to be my age or older. And guess what? They're going to think I am so weird. I know that. I've seen people of my age go, you do what, honey? Yeah, I'm older than them. You do what, honey? You're on YouTube? Yeah, okay. There's nothing out there for you anymore. Okay, guess what? Guess what? That is a pity party, isn't it, Joanne? Seriously, think about it, honey. 2x4. That's the pity party. There's nothing for me out there anymore. If I can't bring her back, I'm not going to go and get help. Pity party. You are doing a great job. Big hugs for those truths. When you can see that, right? Now, here's the thing. How about it's not all about you, Joanne? There's a whole world out there. What if you went outside and met Sal? You see, maybe there's somebody that needs you, because you are one heck of a human being. I know that. Right? Do you understand? It's when we only think about ourselves that the pity party works. But when you go, I need to get out. Look at me. I went for a walk around the block and I ended up talking to some people who were walking dogs. And we had quite the conversation, I can tell you. You see, they didn't plan to meet me, but they did. And you know me, I ended up chatting to them. Okay, so Niesha's saying, I've never encountered anyone with so much wisdom like Sal. It amazes me. I'm sure all of us also. That's why I believe they all work, because they're all out of the box information. Well, you see, the thing is, Niesha, I've hurt. I've had losses. I've I have hard hearing, so I know what happens when maybe your eyes don't work or your ears don't work. I know what that feels like because I've been there. I've been sick. I've been diagnosed with possible cancer. I haven't had it, but boy, I've been, touch wood, I won't. But it's like I've been in and out of hospitals. I know what that feels like. I've been obese for a long time. I know what it feels like. I need to let go of being obese. That's a big thing for me now. So what I want you to understand is I am not more clever than anybody. All right. I spend my life researching this stuff in different ways. I want to thank the person who asked me to do this broadcast on forgiveness. And the reason I want to thank that person, if they happen to listen to this, is because it helped me revisit it for myself. And it also helped me, remember what I need to do. And I realize that I've been beating up on myself about this move and so forth. And it's time to let that go and just get on with enjoying my new place. So I want to thank you all for being as honest as you are with me. I want to thank you for trusting me the way that you do. And I hope that in my own way, I acknowledge that trust and don't talk about you when you ask me not to, or don't repeat your story when you ask me not to. But I also want to acknowledge Jody and Lionel and Lauren for sharing their stories, because isn't it true that when you hear somebody else's story, it's so much easier to see the answer? You can see Lionel walking across that room and crunching those glasses and imagine how he must have felt. All right? You can imagine that and you can forgive him immediately. And that's all that we all do. We all make mistakes. We all have things happen that we didn't want to have happen. And we all have the ability to let it go. We will never forget. There will always be just that little bit of pain, and that's normal. It is when you are constantly torturing yourself and not forgiving yourself that you are doing self-harm. So, your choice. I cannot stop you from doing it. And I've been there, I've done it to myself, so I know. But I can tell you one thing, there is hope. And if you keep working on you and you keep realizing that this is what we do to ourselves if we choose to. Jody will tell you she isn't doing the double standard quite as much, but I think I caught her twice in the last month. Jody, am I right? 2 different double standards in the last month. Mind you, she hasn't called me on mine, and I know I have had them. Because you see, I'm a human being. I still make mistakes. I'm a human being. I still need to forgive myself. We are all, as Jody's saying now, we are all works in progress. So thank you for touching my heart and my soul. Thank you for trusting me to be able to help. And if you want to spend the rest of your life in a pity party, that is your right. That's your choice. But just remember, you can go outside the door and join the real world. And some people are not going to like you. Their loss. Some people are going to love you to bits. And some people, find somebody to go to the movies with. All right. I do that. If I'm really getting down on myself, I go, what movie do I want to go and see? And I will phone up one of my friends and say, let's go to a movie. Why? I don't like to go on my own. I could if I really was strong, but I don't want to. You see, I want to talk to somebody. I want to hear their views about things. I want to enjoy life. And that, I believe, will keep me young and keep my brain going. Oh, and now we want another broadcast on more anger management. Okay. For another week, not to this week. You have no idea how my brain works at doing one of these, right? Jody will let me know that I need to do that. Nyasha, I know there's one that I'm late on for you as well. And Jody, can you remind me to look back on my conversations with Nyasha? Because I remember saying I can't do it now. We're too close to Christmas. But once we've settled down from Christmas, I will. Can you remember that conversation, Jody? And just in case Nyasha can't remember it, I think I've got it. I think I had a messenger comment or something with her about it. So I will try and track it down. If you can remember, Nyasha, it would help save me some time trying to find it. Yeah, I'm thinking too. Those two brain cells are a bit tired now. All right, everybody. So you can do this because you're already doing it. And that's what I want you to know. Do you guys believe that I am working on losing weight even though I put it on? You see, I want you to see that. All right? I want you to see that I am constantly working on trying to find the key to losing weight. I know what it is. Eat the right food. That will help me lose a lot of weight. I was doing so well yesterday. So well. You cannot believe how well I did. And then I found the jelly beans again. You see, there are still jelly beans in my house. And guess what? I took a handful and had them. But the good news is I did not go over my blood sugar. I'm getting really smart. The good news is I forgave myself and said, you see, and what I do is I go, all right, I know this is wrong. I know I should not be eating this. But I'm going to anyway. See, I'm a big girl. So I ate them. And then I said, and now I forgive myself. Until tomorrow morning when I take my blood sugar, and I will see if I'm still under 8, I will go, well done. If I'm over 8, that's on my scale. I know it's different in America, but then I'm in big trouble, and I'm gonna have to do some serious adjustments. So well done, Joanne. All right. Do you understand? We all make mistakes every day, and we all need to forgive ourselves every day. And if you can understand that the pity party serves no purpose but to keep you stuck, if you can see that, people, and limit your pity party to so many minutes. Remember the lesson that we learned from Linda. Complain. She doesn't let anybody in her house complain for more than 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we move on. So, practice, try doing it I can have a pity party for 15. After that, I need to go and do something. You see, the way you get out of depression is not to take pills. It is to do something. The pills are there to help you cope, but do something. You see, that's what got me out of depression. I was doing more. I wasn't sitting there going, using it as an excuse. Well, I can't do that because I'm depressed. I can't do that because I've got OCD. I can't do that because, I'm obese. I can't do that because, you see, these are all excuses. Oh, how about Jody? I can't do that because I got lymphedema. No, Nyasha, I think you told me on your messenger. I think that's where it was. And I think I wrote back to you and said, can't do it right now, honey. But I'll tell Jody, and I think I did, that we've got it on the list. So I've probably got it somewhere. But if you can find it before me, I'd appreciate it. All right? All right, everybody, I'm way over time. And we will do more. We will, just so you guys know, we will keep doing these subjects. We will keep doing denial. We will keep doing anger. We will keep doing sadness. We will keep doing bargaining and acceptance because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Right? The whole reason that we get healthy is we can see that we have been doing this cycle of loss over and over and over again. And we do it every day. And it's okay. What we're trying to do is to do that circle faster. We don't want to spend 19 years on the next one. Okay? This is Dear Mama Soul saying, please forgive yourself. Practice forgiving yourself. Because if you don't forgive yourself, this will continue. And you deserve to be happy. Regardless of what mistake you have made, you do deserve to be happy again. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you so much for your honesty and for letting us share your stories. Bye-bye for now.